Hello and welcome back to another episode of AzUpdate. I'm Anthony Bartolo, joined as always by Sarah Lean. Sarah, how's it going?
I'm good, thanks, Anthony. How you doing?
Good. Another busy week. Thought we would get a reprieve after Ignite, but the countdown for Microsoft Build has already started. T-minus 7 weeks. Wow. It's been, I get it. We're all working from home, but the amount of activity that we're doing hasn't stopped. So definitely vacations are in order after this is all done. It's actually getting warmer here in Toronto. We're hovering around 16 degrees now. I think it's 45 Fahrenheit, which is pretty warm. All the snow is melting. I'm seeing green grass. I think producer Pierre still has 3 feet of snow outside, which is, because he's further north than I am. Yeah, he's saying 4 feet. 4 feet of snow still outside. How about you, Sarah? How's things where you are?
We had thunder and lightning last night, and we've got rain and wind, and yeah, it's much colder here in Scotland than it is in Canada.
Isn't that the weirdest thing, right? Usually you hear Canada, oh, you live in an igloo, you drive a husky. No, hold on.
But I know, crazy.
Lots of news to talk about today. The first one, we're going to jump right into it, and I want to have this discussion with you. You've done on the administrative piece before, the administrative role. When you've come up with a situation with a node not working like it's supposed to, not working to spec, what has been your course of action in regards to that?
Panic. Oh, is that not the first rule of it?
Oh yeah, guy is falling, hands are waving, running around. People are calling, screaming at you. Why is this not working? What's going on? Right? The chat room is just talking about that too right now. It's crazy. When it happens, obviously there's a course of actions that we go through and understanding what's going on, check the logs, see where the failures reside, what have you. I wanted to bring this up today. Mark Ruzinovich shared a blog post with everybody yesterday with a new project called Project Narya. Now, there was another project that was before this one, which is Telegrade. And the Telegrade project was to instill resiliency in nodes spun up on Azure. Telegrade was the first step. Now, Narya is the next step where you're incorporating intelligence to work with Telegrade to ensure upkeep or ensure that your nodes don't go down. Producer Pierre, if you can quickly share my screen. The big thing here is that with the intelligence put into play, it doesn't just build on the resiliency piece of your nodes. It also takes into consideration the course of action that it can take to fix a node going down and what steps it should take so that it causes the minimal amount of impact. So in the scenario that they're showing here, you have a notification that there's a probability that a node will go down due to disk failure or disk issues. And so Project Narya actually goes in and does some analysis in regards to what course of action can we take to automate the ability to migrate the node and repair that drive without incurring any downtime and doing it automatically based on what's made available to it with the least amount of impact. And this is really cool because it's incorporating artificial intelligence to have that making that decision and to not just take it down, but to do so in such a way, like if it's a sensitive application that's on that node, without taking down the organization, migrating to another cluster, enabling that application to run seamlessly, and then correct the situation with that failed disk. It's a really cool premise, and they're actually in testing of it right now. It's not in production. This is part of a think tank that they have underneath Mark Ruzinovich in terms of solutions like this. But definitely something that's awesome to read, and we've shared it in our blog as well for people to take into consideration and provide their feedback to in terms of how to make this better. Sarah, what's your thoughts?
I think it's pretty cool. It'll definitely help you in those situations where something happens and you might be in your bed or whatever and stuff you're not actionable right there at your desk. I think I'd be interested to see how it impacts your design of your applications and your workloads, because obviously it's great if you can just migrate your workload to another node, but how does that perform if you've got, I don't know, added of static IP addresses? How does all of that work? And how will that machine learning actually learn from you? And can you teach it things, or does it just automatically learn? These are the kind of questions that are going through my head. But initially, it sounds like it will help you on the face of it, to be honest.
What's great about this is you hear a lot of talk about artificial intelligence and the elimination of jobs because of it and what have you. This is a prime example of the enhancement that artificial intelligence brings to the equation when looking at something like resiliency of your nodes. You're seeing this type of implementation on security threats addressment through Azure Sentinel. You're starting to see this capability being incorporated in a lot of the services that Microsoft provides to not only ensure uptime, but to ensure, I feel secure with my deployment here on Azure to ensure that there's that, relative uptime. I'm not going to be impacted in my business or impacted very slightly in regards to my business. And it's not the sake of adding AI for just the sake of adding AI. It's responsible inclusion of artificial intelligence to benefit everyone, which is really cool. And it's great to see this now becoming more broader and a lot more accepted throughout all the services that Microsoft is starting to offer.
Yep, indeed. It'll be interesting to see how it goes, even if it does become a product, because I think at the moment it's like research stages to a certain degree. So, it might be that the team decide that it's maybe not as impactful or isn't as polished. Not to downplay it or put them off, but these research projects are great for trying things out. But then will they actually come into fruition? It'll be interesting to see how that progresses for sure.
So let's get started with the news. And Sarah, you're up first.
Yes, so I want to talk about the Azure VMware Solution, or AVS, as you might have seen it called, which is the solution where you can take your VMware environment and kind of migrate it up into Azure without necessarily changing how you run it. So you can take your VMware skills with you and then add on bits of pieces to Azure on top of it. But what I want to talk about today is the announcement that it's been extended into another data center region. So the Southeast Asia data center within Azure now has this capability. And this is a kind of important milestone, I think, for the AVS team, because this is the 10th region that it has for support of that solution. I think when it was launched last year at Ignite, there was 4 regions that supported it, and over the time they've added it up. But this new announcement brings it up to the 10 milestone. So it's always good to get into double figures when you talk about the support. So it's nice to see that the team are growing this, and hopefully there'll be more support for different regions and data centers over the course of the next couple of months. What do you think about this solution, Anthony?
It's really great, right? And the fact that you can migrate your on-premises implementation of VMware to the cloud. I did have a quick question, just for confirmation. When you're saying deploying to another region, does that mean that your instance of the VMware solution actually resides in the Southeast Asia data center, so that there's some rules in terms of localization of the specific data? Is this the case, with this announcement?
Yes. So if you're in that region, and you need to have that data sovereignty within the Asia region or APAC, then potentially that's there. I know we also have support in one of the UK data centers, so great for those UK customers that are having to comply with some of the needs around your data sovereignty, GDPR, all of those kind of fun compliance needs.
And that's the thing, right? Compliance is key here, and it's the reason why Microsoft is opening these services to other data centers around the world, because the request is coming in from you, our audience, in regards to, I need to have the data localized within my country or within my geo. And so having this capability being extended in terms of a service on the specific data center, hugely impactful, and it's awesome to see this continue to grow. Next up in the news, there was an announcement that a lot of people missed at Microsoft Ignite. It was the announcement of Windows Server 2019 Azure Edition, which supports hot patching. Now, we heard a lot about the hot patching capability and the fact that I can actually go into virtual machines and apply hot patches without the requirement of rebooting the machine itself. It's now offered in an on-premises or VM offering of Windows Server, currently in beta. Or in general preview, sorry, not private preview. It's available in general preview. Rick Claus actually wrote an article to highlight the differences between the standard version of Windows Server and the new offering Windows Server spinning up in a VM on Azure itself. And the differences in terms of patching. So the ability to hot patch a Azure edition of Windows Server without actually taking the server down or requiring of a reboot. This is big, and it's something where currently in testing, and it's offered inside of the blog post. There's a link that you can sign up for to go in and try out the Windows Server Azure Edition to test it out yourself. I'm guessing hot patching is only the first instance of the differentiator that's going to be for this offering of Windows Server. Sarah, your thoughts? What do you think about this whole new offering of server specifically that's Azure Edition called out for?
I think it'll be interesting to see where the team take it. This is obviously patching is obviously something that we all love to hate. When Patch Tuesday rolls around, it usually means a round of overtime, 3 a.m. in a data center or stuck at your PC. So it's obviously something that customers have been asking about to try and fix it, trying to make it better. So it'll be interesting to see the uptake, and like you say, it'll be interesting to see where they take this edition of Windows Server, and what other features we get in the Azure edition. So yeah, be keeping an eye on this one for sure.
It's interesting that we've created this new offering, Azure Edition, and it's very important, and we say this a lot on the show: go out, test out its functionality, make your opinions and suggestions heard of the product team. This is the important piece, right? The hot patching piece is a great solution that's being added to this version of server, but Microsoft wants to hear from you. What else is required? What else needs to be added in respect to this Azure server offering for is Windows Server offering for Azure. They want your input. They want to know what should be added, what should be taken into consideration when doing this deployment. Why would an organization deploy this outside of hot patching? What requirements would you be looking for? So definitely check out Rick Claus's post. Again, it's available on itopstalk.com, and then go through the link, sign up for the general preview, and then make your opinions heard. Sarah, you're up next.
Yes, and I want to talk about Microsoft Teams. We probably all spent the majority of this last year inside Microsoft Teams. I know for sure that's where I've been spending a lot of my time. And what the team announced at Ignite was some of the new features that's going to make it easier for us to present and kind of collaborate as if we were in the same room with our colleagues or our audience. This feature that I'm actually talking about is rolled out internally. So we've had a sneak peek of it, and I believe it's rolling out to the general public this month. So you should hopefully see it appear in your Teams edition. But what it allows you to do is have a much richer experience when you're sharing your PowerPoint presentation inside Teams. I'm a big fan of sharing your PowerPoint natively inside Teams so that it can save on some bandwidth and save having, big clunky PowerPoint open in a couple of screens on your laptop and set up at home. What this allows you to do is actually see the PowerPoint slide that the audience can see your notes, and then control it, much like you can do just in PowerPoint itself natively. And one of the features, I was using this during the week to present to a customer, one of the features that popped up was little pop-up messages of the chat. So on top of my screen, it wasn't down the sidebar that you usually have within Teams chat, because I actually had chat shut down. I didn't have that section open. And the messages, when people were saying that they were having some issues seeing the slides, ironically enough, was alerted to me, and it was just a pop-up box. It didn't really distract me from my presentation, but I was able to see it instead of just having that little dot. I'm sure we've all had that little red dot over the chat window, and then you have to go and click, and then you have to go and read. These messages were popping up, and it was quite seamless, actually. Interestingly enough, it wasn't my end that was giving the issue to the slides. It was the other person. They had to shut down Teams and come back in. But yeah, I love this feature, and we're also going to see some new features coming out in terms of, I think they're calling it presenter mode, where you can actually superimpose yourself on top of the slides, what you're seeing on the screen here. And it's a bit like green screen technology, from what I can tell, putting your face on front of your slides instead of having a separate box so that the audience are watching the slides and you at the same time, if they want to see you and the slides at the same time. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see where the Teams team are taking this product. I think, unfortunately, we're going to be stuck at home for quite a bit still. So making the features more rich for us as presenters and audience members is definitely exciting to see. Have you had a chance to use this at all, Anthony, yet, or what do you think?
Oh, I love the ability to have my notes available to me without the whole confusion of which screen should I be looking at. I have a 3-screen setup, And I always have that challenge in regards to, okay, I'm sharing this PowerPoint presentation, sharing it from the application specifically. I want to see my notes, not because I'm going to say line for line what's there in the notes, but I want to make sure these are the items and topics I want to cover, right? Some other people do read line by line, but that's another story altogether. So, I want to have the points there in terms of what I need to know, what I want to make sure I want to cover when I'm sharing the slide. The fact that I can actually have it now inside of Teams, that for me is a big one, because I don't have to have the confusion of, okay, I need to light it up on this screen, and on this screen, my portrait mode is where I'm going to have my notes. I don't have to worry about that anymore. It's all available inside of Teams itself. The other piece is, like you said, when there is a issue that's happening with the presentation and people are chiming in about it on the chat, I don't get to see that because the chat is hidden while I'm presenting, because I'm presenting the specific screen. So to have that ability to have the pop-ups that others can't see the pop-ups as they come up, so I can get notified when there is a problem, or if somebody's raising their hand for a question, and it doesn't disrupt everybody else from seeing the presentation itself. That too is a big thing, because then I can make the choice of, hey, you know what, if I answer this question is a great segue to another aspect of my presentation, that's awesome as well. The green screen piece, it's really cool. I know we saw a lot of Scott Hanselman has shared his ideas in terms of how you take OBS, which is the Open Broadcast System, and embed that into your PowerPoint. He may have had a hand in helping the PowerPoint team build this out for Teams. It's a really cool feature. The only thing is that you'll have to take in consideration when you're building out your decks to leave that section of your deck open, right? So it's another consideration that you have to put into play. I myself just, having the box share with my image while I'm talking with the PowerPoint presentation is enough. But if you want to get fancy, like, this looks really good, and it's seamless. I'm wondering if you actually have to go out and buy a green screen to accomplish this, or will it use the technology and know that you're the individual? I haven't tested that yet, but something to definitely look into.
Will be interesting, actually, because the technology currently within Teams is actually pretty good when you use like the blur feature. So I wonder if they're building on that to kind of cut out your background instead of blurring it and putting it on top. So, but yeah, it'd be interesting to see for sure.
Let's continue on with the news. Next up, there is the new offering on Azure Monitor for live view of data within a container. So now you have the ability to go in and actually see what resources are actually being utilized and monitor those resources using Azure Monitor to get an understanding of, what resources inside of the pod are actually being utilized under Kubernetes. This is a big one because prior to, you had the general overview in terms of the Kubernetes running and not understanding, hey, is there something inside of Kubernetes that is causing problems with the application? Now you have the actual view itself to go into the Kubernetes and see in the pod, hey, well, this is the resources that are running. Here's a potential failure. I'd like to see this attached into Project Narya to see if there's that mitigation piece that could occur inside of the Kubernetes pod itself. I think that would be a really cool idea. Sarah, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think when I've talked to customers about monitoring of their clusters and stuff, I think the big issue sometimes with the monitoring is it's maybe 5 seconds or 5 minutes, whatever it may be. There's that delay, so they never know what's happening. So it's nice to see the product team taking some of that feedback on board and giving that live view and that live overview. Because let's face it, you don't want to wait 5 minutes to find out if you've just hit a command and pushed something and brought down your whole cluster, because by the time the monitoring finds out, your phones are going to be ringing and people are going to be shouting. So live monitoring is always a big win.
And to have it go right down into the container itself, that's huge. Just to have that understanding of the operations that are in there. You can use that for diagnostics if something goes down, forensics if there's a hack that's occurring, to increase efficiencies, right? Like, there's so many capabilities, there's so many opportunities that you can have with the live view of your resources inside of the container. It's something where, kudos to the Azure Monitor team to extend that functionality to get the reporting that deep inside of your Kubernetes deployment as well, which is really cool.
Yep.
Let's talk about events. So first up, there's a new show that's out there. It's actually been out for about 2 weeks now. It's called Hello World, and it goes live every day at, I believe it's 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is a show about, things that happen at Microsoft, services that are created at Microsoft. It's a daily show, so it's every day from Monday to Friday at 1:30. There's a bunch of us that are hosting on the show, so it's a great conversation in terms of what engineers are doing at Microsoft in terms of services and what they come on to showcase and highlight in terms of capabilities. You get some, behind the scenes in terms of how is Ignite created, how is Build created, how is that all supported. There's, challenges that are issued in regards to how are you using specific services. So do definitely check out this show. Next up, and it's actually happening today, it's actually not Patch and Switch. We understand that producer Pierre is actually going to have his own show today alongside producer Steve, who's actually in the chat room as well, which is really cool. I believe the show is called Production and Testing. It's a show where they're going to actually go through Azure services. Sorry, testing and production. I said it the opposite way.
I was about to say testing and production as we're doing right now.
Sorry, producer Pierre. My apologies. Testing and production. It will go live. Producer Pierre, since you're around it's 1 p.m. today Eastern time, correct?
Noon Eastern time.
Anthony, you haven't been studying. You've got all the information wrong.
And I have the notes right
here. Bud?
So producer Steve and producer Pierre will be on the air to do testing and production, and they're going to be talking about Azure services and running through them and testing them out. And it's going to be an interesting show, so definitely join in. And apparently they're going to have some surprises too. They might be doing some crank calling of Patch and Switch, but that's we'll see. We'll see if that goes on. Next up, there is a digital event. So in conjunction with the announcement of the offering of the VMware solution in Southeast Asia, now there's a digital event of, how do you extend the cloud with the Azure VMware solution? So if you're testing this out, and definitely a lot of people on Reddit have reached out in regards to the solution itself, asking for more information. Here's a great event that's coming out on March 23rd that's actually going to walk through as an introductory, how do you utilize the solution? How do you migrate your on-premises implementation of VMware to the Azure VMware solution? What you should take in consideration, what you can and cannot do. So definitely check this out. Check this event out as well. Lots of events to talk about. Geez, the next one up, Datadog. So the Datadog solution is an add-on to the Azure monitoring solution, which we talked about today in terms of Kubernetes now going down into the container and understanding the resources that are there as well. This is a solution that bolts on top of Azure monitoring to provide more insight in terms of what's going on through your Azure monitoring solution for reporting. So it's the whole ability to say, I can get a graphical representation of the monitoring results that are coming in that I can see amidst the Datadog dashboard. So this is another event that's coming up. It's actually next week, March 16th. Definitely check that out. It's going to be another interesting endeavor to see the extension of Azure Monitor into new capabilities and new visualizations and what's going on. Sarah, thoughts? All the events that we have. There was a lot of events to go through today. Well, that's just it, right? So Ignite's done, and now you have all the events that are coming out there. And the fact that we're connected, everybody's connected, you can view this at any time. I know we say it in Eastern time zone, but definitely check it out for your time zone. Is there any events, Sarah, that you're interested or intrigued by in terms of what's going on?
There's so many. I think I'm speaking at a few as well. And it's just the selection is great. It's just thick and fast with events. So I think it's key just to pick the ones that you're focused on and make a mark on the ones that are on demand as well, and make a priority of all your time, because there's tons of events, tons of content. So yeah, I try to prioritize the live ones and get the best out of those ones, and then the ones that are available on demand afterwards, I save them for, when I'm vegging out on my couch and watching on my TV.
So what's interesting though is that, and I've seen you do this a lot, you don't just go to the events that are in your area, you go to the events worldwide, right? So, vegging out on your TV, as you said, possibly watching the one that's being done in Australia or watching the one that's, in other parts of the world. It's cool that we have that ability, right? And this whole virtual plane that we're on right now, I hope that doesn't stop, once everything is done, we still have that ability to view what's happening in other parts of the world, because I always glean a lot of information and ideas in terms of how people do things differently.
I know it's interesting as a meetup organizer myself, the Glasgow Azure user group. It's interesting to see the transition from what we did our traditional in-person events, and now we've been doing virtual events, and they've enabled us to get speakers from out west of Scotland and have a more diverse and larger selection of speakers. Lots of people have asked that when we return to in-person events that we do a hybrid type of event. As a meetup organizer, that is going to be logistically quite challenging, especially given that we are a non-profit organization. You know, we don't have budget to bring in webcams and all the kind of stuff that you need to be able to do all of that. So it's going to be definitely interesting to see how we try and adapt. But again, I think it's going to be one of those things that if people can't accommodate the virtual thing, then you shouldn't get angry, because there's obviously a lot of organization as well behind that. So yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting time to see. I'm saving up all my stickers for when we come in person though, Anthony, because I'm looking forward to the sticker exchange.
Oh yeah, I have about a year and a half's worth of stickers that I need to give away. So definitely, I'm looking forward to the sticker exchange as well. Let's do a quick shout out to the chat room. There's a lot of people participating here. Hello to Andrew McCollum. We have Paul Jensen. We have producer Steve on the chat as always. We have producer Pierre chatting with producer Steve on the chat. I guess they're preparing for the show today at noon. We have Akos has joined us today. So hello to everybody that's chatting in the chat room. They're talking everything from the Azure VMware Solution to Project Narya, which they're talking about as well, which is really cool. Getting ready for testing and production. There you go with producer Pierre. They're talking about it with everybody in the chat. So do check them out at noon today. It'll be on Twitch TV under the Patch and Switch branding if you want to check that out. Last but not least, the Microsoft Learn module of the week. This is a big one. There are 6 Windows Server learning paths. So not modules, learning paths. What does that mean? Per each learning path, there are 8 to 9 modules available. I can't tell you how much work it was done to get this completed. Hats off to Oren Thomas to get this out the gate. This was a big one, and it was something that you would ask for in terms of, hey, where's all the Windows Server stuff? And Oren has delivered in droves in regards to this. Do check it out. A lot of people have been amazed by the content that's made available on here. If there are any gaps or any suggestions to shore this up, definitely go in, make your voice heard, and make your suggestions. We're definitely available to go in and make changes as required. Sarah, have you had a chance to go through any of this yet?
Not yet. It's on my to-do list. Oren has made sure it's on my to-do list, so I need to make sure it's on my to-do list.
Well, that's fine, right? Like I too, I have not gone through it as of yet. I've gone through a couple of the introductories and just to see what's going on. I love the hands-on piece and the step-by-step. It's a great resource to just to practice and see what the differences is between 2016, 2019. It's a great refresher to a lot of what I used to do back in 2003 has changed so much to where we're at right now. I just dated myself. So it's a great refresher for those that have been in the field for a while, and it's great if you're learning it in terms of you're spinning up new VMs using Windows Server, what you should do, what you can do, what's changed from the previous editions. Really great offering. Wow, it's been a busy show today. There's been a lot of information. Sarah, if people want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
I am Techie Lass on most social media platforms, so that's where to find me. And
if you also want to find her, she has her YouTube channel as well. It's also under Techie Lass. If you want to get a hold of producer Pierre, you can do so on Twitter at Wired Canuck. And if you want to get a hold of me for some reason, you can find me on Twitter as well at Wireless Life. Sarah, it's been a great show. Have a great weekend and have a great weekend, everybody. And we'll see you next week.